So anyway, we are here and we've decided to do Geek Syndicate Live. So what we always wanted to do was have a chat show. So we couldn't get a sofa, so we got some lime green chairs with arms. That's how we roll.
If you could just picture that it's a sofa, that'd be great. It'd be really great helpful.
Yeah. So just to introduce us, we've got a group called Anime Kai. I've said that right.
Okay.
Anime K.
I knew it was Anime K.
Yeah, I knew that. It's just a different language, isn't it?
Anime K, who are part of 86th Floor, which is this gentleman here.
86th Floor.
Everyone look at him, make him feel nervous.
So this is what they did for us. So
It's the Geek Syndicate with Monts and Nuge. It's episode 250 and that's pretty huge with all the news and tons of chat. They're keeping it geek and there's plenty of sass.
Right, so basically what is a chat show without guests?
I just loved the look of old films. I think the black and white photography as well always kind of accentuated the shadows and the bone structures of these gorgeous people. So I was very into drawing pretty ladies and nice dresses and faces, but I never drew anything else. I had a quite limited range as an artist. So many years later, having gone through and achieved my childhood dream of like singing and dancing and acting, I have a normal life. I'm a married lady with 2 children and I have a husband, and we spent one Father's Day going to the South Bank in London, because the South Bank, there's always stuff to do. There's always people performing, and there's museums and the London Eye, and there's the Tate Modern. And we went to the Tate Modern, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, this is really not my kind of art, but you're an older person, you're grown up, open your mind, see the poetry, see the concept, see what they're trying to say to you. And I went in there and I came out the other end towards the gift shop, and I thought, do you know what, you just haven't grown up, you still don't get it. It just did not speak to me, and I wanted to know, where's the drawing? Where's the stories? Where's the thing that kind of, you go to another art gallery, you can stand in front of a painting for hours and you can come up with a whole movie script for it. It says so much. And so I picked up a book in the gift shop. The book was called The Creative License by Danny Gregory, and it had a lovely picture all done in felt tip and the handwritten text on it, and the whole book was in handwritten text and sketched out, and it was a book, not really a manual on teaching you how to draw, but his ethos was, if you want to draw, don't censor yourself, just do it, and literally just pick up a blank piece of paper, get a pen, do not get yourself a pencil, don't edit yourself, and just look at the world around you and start drawing. So fast forward 2 years later, I now have a sketchbook full of things other than pretty ladies and long dresses. I'm drawing architecture, I'm drawing every cup of coffee I have in a cafe is being drawn at every different angle. And little did I know it, but I was learning how to draw backgrounds for comics. And how the comic thing came about was, if I can name drop now, because I am in showbiz, it's what you kind of expect on the chat show.
We'll do a tag when you do it.
So I'm doing Spamalot, a tour of Spamalot the musical, and Phil Jupitus is playing King Arthur. And don't say why. And anyway, he's mad about comics, and he goes to buy his comics every Wednesday or whatever the day is. You buy your weekly comics. So when he saw that I'd been drawing, he just said to me, oh, you should be doing a graphic novel, because you can write scripts and you like playing characters, and it's kind of a no-brainer. And I looked at him like, the lights have gone on, and it was just it was just a throwaway remark, and he probably was looking for something nice to say about my sketches, and that's what he came up with. So it was a revelation. I just thought, oh my God, of course, as a child I always loved comics, but I grew up, and the comics that I knew about they were all superheroes, all kind of male-centric kind of stories. I thought, well, what is there for girls? And I started looking into comics, I started buying graphic novels, and I thought, oh my God, these are grown-up stories, and the art is fantastic, and the art is whatever you want it to be. So I came back to my little girl self who used to like drawing movie stars, and I thought, I still love movie stars, and I still love this history of the film industry, and I came up with a full-blown idea for a graphic novel set in the 1930s about a girl working behind the scenes, kind of a Mad Men meets the artist type scenario. And then I realised that I'd have to probably do at least one comic strip before doing a whole book. So I started practicing doing comic strips, and I just did them sort of quietly, and put them on my blog. And that's as quiet as you can be, because nobody ever goes to people's blogs and websites. I don't care what the marketing books tell you. It's all, so this
bit of much.
You've got to be louder than that. You've got to really kind of put it out there. A year and a half after I got this mad notion that I wanted to do comics, I went to my very first comic convention, and the comic convention opened the door to meeting lots of people who were all creating comics. And about 8 months after that, I created It Girl, which was my very first self-published comic.
That's an incredible story. I just love how things happen without you expecting them to. You're not looking for the paths to come, they just open themselves up. You've actually answered about 3 of the questions I had for you. Yeah. You enjoyed talking. So I've got another question for you, but actually it kind of segues into something I want to ask our next guest. So I'm going to bring on our next guest, who has been he's an editor at Dark Horse. He's a great editor at we met before at Dark Horse Comics. Been there for 8 years, I believe, and has 6 years, and had how many promotions in that time?
3.
So Jim Gibbons, come take a seat. Well, the first question I've got for you, actually, let's start somewhere else. Have you been to an English con before?
No, this is my first convention outside of the States.
What is it? Sorry, I've just once again been blown away by the magnificent facial hair. That it's quite manly.
It's the Portland rain. It just gets into the follicles. And
I'm just glad that you got my email about not wearing the hat today.
Are you worried that people would confuse you?
I think
no, the hat's my thing. Do you know what I mean?
The lesson is be careful about what you put on the internet. Because it never goes away.
Ever.
We found far worse stuff. This is the tame stuff. That's coming later.
People. 3 different people.
So what's brought you to England this time?
Shane, who runs the show. Well, actually,
he said shame.
Shane.
To get out of the States as quickly as possible.
This is my.
There's no home for me there.
But a buddy of mine at Marvel Comics, I guess they were looking for people. It was Ricky Purden, who's the talent manager now. And he suggested me, and Shane got in touch, and I said, that would be great. I'd love to go talk about editing comics and working in this industry in another country. So.
Look at 6 years at Dark Horse, and you've had this meteoric rise through the company. And I have to ask, what is the secret of your success? Is it that you're incredibly good at what you do? Do you have a passion for it, or does nobody like you and they keep trying to push you on to someone else? I'm just wondering.
I would like to think maybe it's just likability in general, because at the end of the day, I mean, working in comics, it's all about personal relationships, and over time, you're thrust into this. Each individual project, you're working with a writer, artist, maybe a colorist, a letterer as well, and you just you're their point person at a publisher, and so ideally, if you do right by them, they'll do right by you, and that kind of leads to them introducing you to the next people, and all of a sudden, people have good things to say about you, and then the projects you're working on are easier to get done. They're on time more frequently, and ideally, you get some good collaboration going, so whatever the writer and artist are bringing to the table, you're helping them make it the best they can possibly be. And I don't know, I like to call editing comics or liken it to midwifing. I just help people bring their babies into the world, and if I do my job, it's just the best product they can possibly deliver.
Is there as much pain as in screaming?
Sometimes more, I'm sure. But I think it's one of those things where at the end of the day, you want people to have a comfortable environment for them to create their work and to do something that's not just a profession for them, but also a passion for them. And so over time, hopefully, I guess I've done that pretty well. So
now you sort of mentioned this whole idea of mentoring people. Now, Jessica, you had a mentor, didn't you?
I have a mentor.
You have a mentor.
Yes.
And who's your mentor?
Okay, my mentor is Mark Buckingham.
Clang.
Of fables.
Yes.
How?
Okay, so here's the story. I mentioned that I got to my first convention nearly 3 years ago, and the summer of that year. See, I remember everything. Everything's in my diary, in my memoir, because everything for me in my adventures in comics is a fateful day. It's like I feel my life is like a comic book adventure.
That and the fact you draw everything as well.
Yeah. But no, I went to a Vertigo panel at a convention in London. And the reason why I went to the Vertigo panel was, I have to, hands up here, all I knew about comics was literally what I knew from my childhood. So all the superhero stuff and some girls' comics that I grew up, much older than you guys, so you wouldn't remember them. But
No.
But one of the it was a graphic novel, a periodical that I discovered, published by Vertigo, that I absolutely fell in love with, was called Madame Xanadu. Matt Wagner wrote it, and oh my God, he's become one of my favourite artists of all time. Michael William Kaluta, who's one of the studio. Oh my God, I want to do something about the studio one day. But anyway, I saw this book, Exodus Noir, Madame Xanadu, set in the 1940s. Not only the 1940s, but it's got all this fantastic esoteric stuff, reincarnation, and and this woman's telepathic powers, and it just absolutely blew my mind. And when I saw that Vertigo were doing a panel with their artists talking about, how to work for Vertigo, basically, I thought, I've just got to go to this, because I felt a connection. I felt I love their kind of work, and I'd also bought a whole anthology of fables as well. Now, I had no idea that Mark Buckingham was like this super duper, VIP at Vertigo, but he gave a really good talk about the whole approach to the art. And of course, I suppose there were lots of people in the audience who weren't necessarily interested in making comics, but were fans of the book. I was very much interested in the process of comics, and all the questions that I was asking were about how do you do this, or how do you plan? And I guess knowing it from the other way around now, that when you are doing a craft or something creative, it's really good when the questions fielded are to do with what you're doing. You feel you've got something to respond to. So he responded to a lot of my questions, and afterwards, even though there wasn't an official portfolio review, I had some pages with me, and there was a guy in front of me with a huge big A2 folder, and he had a ponytail and a beret, and he looked like he really, I thought, God, why are you even bothering? And I looked over his shoulder, and he had literally these A2 landscapes with kind of Mark Short style dinosaurs and landscapes and building. It was just kind of, God, girl, you are bluffing it. You are totally. And I nearly turned around, but my friend who was with me, he said, no, you've got to, what have you got to lose, So I gulped, and I had my portfolio of my graphic novel in process, which I have to say, not one of the pages that I showed that day is in existence anymore, thank God. And I was punching above my weight, but I smiled. I said, hi Mark, I'm Jessica, working on this book. And he took my book, my folder, and he opened it, and he smiled. And he looked through the whole thing, and I was thinking, is he being ironic here? And he just said to me, he said, this is lovely. He said, you know how to tell a story. And anyway, to cut a long story short, we exchanged cards, and he did say, he sort of did a caveat, which was like, I'm giving you my card. He said, I'm very, very busy. I thought, God, I know you're busy. I know I'm bloody lucky you gave me 5 minutes of your time. He said, but hopefully I'll be in touch. Anyway, he got in touch very soon after that, and he basically said to me that he didn't say I was a wonderful artist or anything, but he said, you've got a story that's different, that needs to be told, and he said, and I want to help you on your journey. So he's helped me in so many ways. So there you go. So I guess the lesson for anybody out there who's feeling a bit shy about showing their stuff or maybe going to a portfolio review tomorrow, it's not the worst thing in the world if nothing comes of it, but you just don't know until you ask. And you don't know what people are looking for. Don't make assumptions.
Talking about our sort of mentor thing, and you were talking, your role is essentially helping people birth their art. So how important do you think it is for someone starting out to get the right editor, the right mentor, the right...
It can be huge. I mean, I think it goes both ways. I've heard, I think there's two stories a lot of times for people starting out. There's a story like that, which is amazing, and some people are very lucky and they wind up with someone who is going to mentor them, and it's fantastic, and then they have a guide their whole way through, and you run into those people a lot, and they always have that support, which is lovely. But then there's also a lot of other people who end up talking to some writer or artist that they love, and they get torn apart. And they just, the person's like, your perspective is terrible, and this is a terrible story idea, and this, that, and the other. And I think for a lot of people, you either get the support you need, and that helps you to evolve in the way you need to, or you get torn apart, and you just get so pissed that you have to go and make comics happen. You got to prove that person wrong. So I think, if you can find the person who's going to mentor you instead of tearing you apart, let's find that person. Absolutely. But I think it is. I mean, it's a collaborative medium as well. If you wanted to work alone, go write a prose novel. If you want to work in comics, you're going to have to be dealing with, ideally, at least probably an editor at the bare minimum. But for a lot of people, you're writing for an artist, or you're an artist having scripts sent to you. So you need to be able to, it's a team sport. You need to be able to play on the team. So.
I was just going to say, now you are a bit of a creator of comics yourself. So
okay.
If you'd like to tell us, so talk us through.
Like I said, careful what you put on the internet. It never goes away. Oh my goodness.
That's an awesome beard drawing, by the way.
That is an awesome beard drawing.
I think beards might be the only thing I draw well.
When was this?
This has got to be like, I mean, not that I've improved any, I doodle occasionally for fun. I think this is, a lot of times people do a 24-hour, there's a 24-hour comic day where you make a comic in 24 hours, and there's another one where you make a comic every hour for 24 hours. And this was...
You had salami for breakfast. This is breakfast, this is salami.
Oh, that was, I rolled salami into a tortilla, and that was my breakfast that day. And anyway, so you come up with something every hour, every half hour, or something like that, and you drew a panel, and I saw everyone doing it on the internet, and I thought, I tell people how to draw comics all day, maybe I should try my hand at this. And it just goes to show you can know a lot about comics and not draw them very well at all.
I think it's masterful. The question I did have for you is, I looked at your workload, the amount of stuff that you've edited or are editing, and it's huge. But one of the things was you've got the Joss Whedon range, and Strain. I can never say his name. Guillermo
del Toro.
Him, stuff. Bob. How do you deal with a line? Is there a pressure in dealing with a line where you know that there are fans who will have an expectation from what they've seen before?
Well, it's nice on the Strain with Guillermo, which he had written his novels about it, and then he wanted to do comics, and he's a huge comics fan, so he actually handpicked the creative team. And when I started on those books, I was just the assistant editor, so I just needed to make sure I didn't screw up any of the low-level tasks, which was easy, and he was very nice. And you'd send him art, and he'd be like, I love it, I fucking love it. Like, he swears a lot, and it's great, which I hope I can do that here, because I just did. But I mean, it was kind of great because people who had read the novels hadn't necessarily read the comics, so you were building new fans, and really the main person that we needed to please on those comics was Guillermo himself, because it seems odd, it almost feels like a licensed comic, but it's actually a creator-owned comic. The creator, or who owns it, just happens to be a multi-million-dollar director. But so he's a comics fan, and he handpicked his team. So honestly, that book has been a breeze because he just looks at the page. He's like, I love what these guys are doing. Have them keep doing it. But on the Buffy stuff, which I've only been doing for few months, actually, a limited amount of time. That's a different beast. The fans of those books
See the stress start twitching.
In the last 5 months that I've been editing those books, probably at least twice a month, I'll wake up on like a Saturday morning and have received like 20 tweets from like the Philippines of a fan who is really displeased, not about any story element, but simply that Buffy and Spike are dating. Like, it will not be a critique of any plot point. It will not be like, I'm not sure this is... It'll just be like, let me tell you why everything you're doing is wrong, and let me tweet it at you, the writer and the editor-in-chief, just so you all know, and let me tweet it 20 times right in a row.
It's being inclusive.
But you know, it's an interesting thing, because I think what I've learned from that experience is a lot of fans don't necessarily want their characters to evolve. And
we all saw who that was.
but a lot of people don't want their characters to evolve, per se. They came to these characters at a certain time, and they want to keep reading those characters. And I think the interesting thing about it, in this regard at least, is Buffy as a television series before it was ever comics. Every single season of that show, those characters went through a huge evolution. So to now be very displeased that evolution is continuing in comics is often very confusing to me, because much as the characters are the heart of that whole property, I also think one of the key creative elements of it has been that constant evolution that in many ways mirrors life.
How do we talk about evolution? It's just segue over here. It's just, so in It Girl, you basically showed the evolution of a star's entire life in, like, what was it, 16 pages? 23
Yeah.
pages? How do you do that? How do you choose how to get that to work?
Oh, well, it's my movie mind, and thinking almost like a trailer. I mean, because trailers nowadays, anyway, practically tell you the whole film. So it's about, I tell you what, one of the best things I ever did, if for anybody wanting to write comics, I sound like I'm an absolute expert. What certainly something that helped me was, I went to a seminar given by a guy called Robert McKee, who is the world's foremost expert on screenwriting. Funnily enough, he hasn't written any films that I've ever heard of, and I think he wrote a couple of episodes of Hill Street Blues, but you know, the guy he's charismatic, and he really understands. Actually, let's debunk one myth, because I don't know whether Jim you'll agree with me. There's no formula. Everyone thinks there's a magic formula, like there's a magic pen that will draw the pictures and a magic formula that will write the story. That's not it. It's just that there's something about, there are certain elements that when you're taken on a story journey, that's exactly what it is. There are things that happen, there's a destination you get to, there are adventures, there are happenings that actually, when one looks at, I don't know, as I learned when I studied drama ages ago, we studied Greek and Roman drama, the hero's journey is, it's about how people's attributes, their characters, are often met in life by circumstances that will challenge them, and you find out where your weaknesses are and your strengths. And people that you meet, they can be enemies or they can be friends, and they bring out certain qualities. Anyway, the guy, Robert McKee, gave a 4-day talk, and he cited different examples of films. Casablanca was what he said was the #1 best film ever, one of the best scripts, best characters. And Casablanca is a fantasy. People think of it as a war film, a romance, but the Casablanca place didn't really exist. The circumstances were all kind of, you know, made up, but they sound authoritative. So he says, whatever world you create, you must make it consistent, you must make it believable, even if it's out in space, you know. I mean, Star Wars, it happens to be a sci-fi, but it could be a history, it could be a romance, you know. And when, coming back to your question, it's a very long-winded answer to your question. Okay, It Girl is about Clara Bow, who is one of the most famous silent movie actresses. She was as big as Marilyn Monroe in her day. And her star rose, and then her star faded when talkie films came in. But the story I was interested in was that she had, like so many of those movie stars, she did have mental health problems, and she had a very, very dark childhood. And I watched a documentary, and in the documentary you found out that Clara Bow had grown up in a poorer environment than Annie. You know, in the musical Annie, she's, you know, a little orphan from the slums of Brooklyn, and Clara Bow's childhood was horrific. She had alcoholic father and an abusive mother who held a knife to her throat when she found out her daughter wanted to go to Hollywood. And literally Clara Bow had to kind of run to Hollywood for her life. And all the elements of the story, I thought, oh my God, I cried at the end of the documentary, but I thought, this, not only have I got a character who's going to look great, she's going to look great to draw in the 20s clothes and the black and white, but there's a story to tell. So more than the look of the thing, I thought, I've got a story too, that's good. And then when I did lots of research, I read a whole book, would you believe? I mean, a whole book of research to condense down to 12 pages. But I had to leave a whole lot of stuff out. So it's honing in on what's going to move the story along. And that's the other thing too, you have to discipline yourself, think, oh, I like this bit. That doesn't relate, that's not telling you anything that you need to know. And I'm not telling the whole of Clara Bow's story. That's everyone's kind of fooled, but actually I've kind of caught, it's sort of like a slice or a vignette, it's just an element of her story that gives you, you know, for me it kind of expresses what it was about Clara Bow that made her a star, but what it was about her that brought her downfall, this kind of, this wild card, this wild girl who had everything that the movies needed, but her nature, the vulnerable nature of her, meant that she couldn't sustain, and she ended up being, not the saddest story, but one of those sad cases, you know, burnt herself out and married the guy on the white Charger, and where actually she had the power and gave it away. So that was the theme. That's really what my story was about, and Clara was the character on which those themes kind of hung. God, that sounds really important, doesn't it?
So we've run out of time.
Oh no, sorry. Oh God, I'm sorry, Jim. You shut me up.
No, but I think there's some important life lessons that Jim could take away there. So
I'm rethinking everything.
Yeah.
You had the power and you
I
gave
Gave
it.
it all.
That man in the white Charger.
Yeah. Lesson
He's
learned.
dreaming.
So, ladies and gentlemen, watch out for Jessica Martin and her work, and keep your eye on Gibbons' recently heavy workload. A great editor.
I told him to say that, but he actually did, so.
Yeah,
So it's
keep,
true now.
Dark Horse bringing out some lovely stuff. So go have a look at the Dark Horse website.
And that is a look at what, I hope I've got it right now, that's what you're working at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry. Quick plug, Elsie Harris Picture Palace, being published next month by Milk Publishing. Young girl filmmaker, 1936 to 1939, starts off as a tea girl and will travel from Elstree to Hollywood, where she becomes a powerful lady.
Spoilers?
No, it's not. It's the way you tell the story.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.